And welcome back, Grief Nation listeners. Today, I have a very, very special guest by the name of JoAnn Dean. Hi, JoAnn. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I think we were supposed to do this a year ago, but I think we're on time right now, right? God always
I
has a
agree.
way of putting things in perspective, and now is the time for us to have this conversation. So, how have you been?
I have been well. Thank you. How about you?
I'm doing everything that God is putting me to do. And also with your guidance, everyone, I want you to know she's one of my amazing mentors I've had over the years. And I just wanted to, I always love to highlight women that have been so good to me and have shown me the way. But I'm doing good, and I'm glad to have you here with me in this space. So, talk to me about what's been going on. Discuss your lost journey with us.
The hardest part of my grief journey began in 2010 when my sister transitioned unexpectedly.
Hmm.
And then after her loss, in 2018, my grandmother transitioned. But the difference between the unexpected loss and the expected loss was that I had different tools in my
Hmm.
toolbox. And so while both were extremely difficult for me, the loss of my grandmother, I was able to take those lessons that I learned from that experience and share that with others. Whereas with my sister, I didn't realize until I stepped out of it how long I remained inside of the grief bubble.
Hmm. Now, how long was the time between the losses?
It was 8 years.
Wow. Wow.
It was 8 years.
And what are some of the things that or just the common emotions that caused you to suffer during that time, during both losses? What are some of those common emotions that you had, of course?
Well, with my sister, I realized I self isolated,
Hmm.
and just kind of sat in a chair. I remember I had a blue chair in my bedroom, and I spent a great deal of time curled up in that blue chair, and just kind of reading and watching TV. And from time to time, I would meditate on God's word. And then my husband, I remember him giving me a book to read. And that kind of helped pull me out of it. But for the longest time, it was self isolating. And the difference with my grandmother's journey was that I used my support group, and
Hmm.
I hired a wellness coach who kind of helped hold me accountable so that I didn't self isolate, because it is my nature to
Hmm.
retreat because I am introverted. And so, without any doubt, it's the place that I feel most comfortable. But definitely, having a wellness coach, taking the initiative to use the tools
Hmm.
and to just take advantage of the love in the community that was around me, and feeling all the love and support, and even having you as a go-to person really served me the second time around. And I feel like the healing didn't take as long as with my sister.
Right, right, right. And I can only imagine losing your grandmother, because your grandmother was more so like your mom who raised
Absolutely.
you.
From
So
birth.
having that dynamic of a parent, grandparent, sibling, I know that's very, very hard. So within those times that you had or your loss, what I know you just discussed with me some of the things that kind of pulled you out, but what made you become resilient? I know you spoke on your husband giving you this book, but from all the things that I know who has made you this amazing woman, what was that thing that just said, I have to do more, with my life? How did you
Mhm.
transition into where you are now?
Well, for me, leaning into my faith
Hmm.
um, is my foundation, and it plays a role in who I am, and understanding that I'm here to serve a greater purpose, and that my life is not about me. And so, just knowing that. And then my grandmother, one of the things that she gave me that I would definitely want to share, and the reason why, I wrote a book to honor her, is because there were so many lessons. She gave me the gift of instructions.
Mhm.
She prepared me for her transition, and for that I will be forever grateful. And while the conversations were hard to have, I was grateful that I had those conversations with her. And so the fact that she prepared me for the journey, I wanted to take the lessons that I learned and share that with my community.
Absolutely. What was your mission for authoring, It Begins With You?
So it begins with you came out of the fact that I relocated here almost, well, actually, it's been 18 years ago. Last
Mhm,
February was 18 years ago. And I was missing my girlfriends. And
mhm,
so I started something called Sister Circle because I feel like it's important to connect and have that community in that girl time, because there's nothing like a good girlfriend. And so
absolutely.
as a result of creating this community, at the end of each Sister Circle retreat, I would have them to do a survey. And based on the questions that they asked me, I started answering. Those questions were around faith and forgiveness and how to move forward. And
Mhm.
as a result of answering those questions, the book was birthed. It begins with you.
Mm. Yes, I often people know that that's also a part of my journey, just because of everything that kind of transpired around me losing Taiki. Of course, you were right there with me the days before, not knowing what I was getting ready to transition into. But It Begins With You for me has been something that is more it's more than just a book for me, because it started something after my son transitioned a year later, that every year at the same time of the year, in February is when I read It Begins With You. So that's like it starts over for me in February. In
Wow.
February for me.
Mhm,
But that's something that I do every year. Every year. I've made that to be like a custom or tradition for me,
mhm,
because like you just said, so much happens in a year.
mhm,
When we were just talking earlier, so many things happened in a year, but it begins with you. And by you writing this book and you saying, because of the collective of women that you were able to have come together for Sister Circle, it means so much to many different people. But for me, it gets me back in order every year,
mhm,
saying
mhm,
start over,
mhm,
even though I mean may have plenty of things going on, but it's a reset for me. And I'm
mhm.
so grateful for you honoring yourself and your sister's story in that book, because it's a really it's a great book. So everyone, Grief Nation listeners, please, 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 go to where can we get this book from?
So it's available on Amazon.com, and it's also available on my website, JoAnnDean.com.
It Begins With You, and that's with everything we do. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
share your thoughts about I have to mention she's a five-time author. She writes. She's also a book coach as well. So I want to share everything that she's done. Talk to me about What About Me?
So, What About Me is a coaching workbook, and the inspiration behind the coaching workbook, go figure. Like I said, there are lessons in everything we do. I was visiting a friend for my birthday weekend, and I noticed she was going through a really hard time. And I went upstairs and I prayed and I said, God, show me how to help her.
Mhm.
And He gave me this four corners of change. And so I took a sheet of paper and divided it into four. And from that, I came up with four different topics. And I went back downstairs and I talked to her around what she was going through. And we came up with an idea, a strategy. So it gave her a strategy and it restored hope in her. It restored hope in her. And for me, that just made my heart sing and
Mhm.
my heart smile, knowing that, wow, God gave me a tool. And so not only did I leave knowing that she would be okay and that she was better than when I found her,
Yeah.
I used it with the clients that I was serving. I
Mhm.
used it on other friends that were going through different challenges. And I thought, wow, we're onto something. And then I remember even having a session with you.
Didn't even
Right?
know.
And so here is the thing, right, Miami? You were so strategic in this because it was so impactful with you. You called me the next day and you said, girl, I was up all night. I have an idea. Like, and so I took what you gave me and I took what I already have, and that's what birthed the book. And so
Wow.
now I use that book in the community as I work with other women that are going through transition. And here is the other thing about it. There have been times when I wanted to purchase some type of resource from
Mhm,
online and I didn't have the financial resources.
mhm,
And so I thought about all those people that want change in their life, but perhaps for some reason right now, financially, they're not able to hire a life coach.
mhm.
So now here's an affordable resource. You have a coach in a workbook
Yeah.
that in the workbook, I walk you through the steps that can bring the transformation that you want to see in your life. And so that's so heartwarming for me to know that I see you. That's what
Mhm.
I'm saying. I see you.
Yes.
I'm here with you.
Yes. JoAnn, we could go on and on about how transformational just this workbook is, because for me, us having that one-on-one session was 2 days prior to my son dying by gun suicide. Okay, so here's God in it, and I didn't see it until, of course, a year later, but God
Mhm,
had already given me a plan
mhm,
of what to do during that transition in time after I had to go first learn of my son's death, bury him, come back home from experiencing the most traumatic event of my life, and I already had a plan. And I say that because people don't understand that God thought about me already. He already knew where I was going to be. He knew what I was going to be going through. He knew I was going to be in my right mind, but he sent you 3 days prior to me having to experience this. And I didn't know what to do with myself. Who knows what to do after having a traumatic event experience? And all I could do was go back on the four corners of my life that you shared with me. And I'm so grateful. A lot of people really don't understand how inspirational that you've been to so many women, not just myself, just to so many women. And I asked God, even today, God, what should we talk about? What should we definitely talk about? And God knows that we are all experiencing so much right now during
mhm.
this time, and we need healing. We need healing. And I'm saying this because you provide tools that support others to make it through. This was days, listen, people, it was days before I even knew that I was going to have this transition or problem or issue or concern or event. And JoAnn brought me the tools to be able to, 90 days worth of tools though. Come on. 90 days of what I needed to do to get myself back on track that I had no clue of what I was experiencing or going to go through. So I owe you so much of my life, and I'm always so grateful and thankful that you helped me during that time of my life, because that was the most devastating time of my life. And this is why we're having this conversation, because people need to know about what you're bringing to our community to support us. Now, what are some of the tools to support an individual as you create concrete steps to fulfill a professional or personal plan? Give us some of those tools.
Well, the first one is to do what you did, is to ask for help,
Amen.
right? And so, and you can find help in so many places. You can hire a coach, of course.
Hmm.
I'm a little biased because I know the power of having a coach and
Yeah.
having somebody that holds you accountable and having somebody that helps you to recognize what's already inside of you. That's all we do. We help you to see who
Yeah.
you really are, because sometimes we have to be reminded of that, Miami. And that's one of the reasons, Sister Circle keeps me coming up with new ways
Mhm.
to keep women engaged, because you know what, as women we give so much of ourselves,
Right.
but who pours back into us? They said, if you're on the airplane, put the mask on yourself first. So often as women we don't do that.
Right.
And so
Mm.
as a coach specifically to women,
Mhm.
I remind you that it's okay to put the mask on you first,
Yeah.
that it's okay to ask for help,
Yeah.
that you don't have to be this strong woman all the time.
Yes.
There is strength, there is wisdom in asking for help. So ask
Yes.
for help. Um, Make a list of what you value. That's one of the things that I walk women through is, let's talk about what you value. Let's get back to what's important to you. Then create a mission statement around that. And this will serve as the roadmap to guiding your decisions. Because when you understand what you value, your
Mhm.
decisions will be driven by the things that you value.
Yeah.
And not
Absolutely.
only once you create a mission statement for yourself, then that will spill over into your family and that
Mhm.
will spill over into every decision you make. And I often say, join something that matters to you. Don't self isolate, because what we'll do is we'll begin to thought loop. We'll play the same thing over and over in our mind. And
Absolutely.
it's good to have a different perspective. And then you said it, Miami, you said every February, I go back to it begins with you. It's about having a routine. There is
Mhm.
so much power in creating a routine for yourself
Mhm.
and for your life, for your family. Because when you have a routine, it sets the tone, it keeps you in alignment. Something simple as going to bed and waking up at the same time will make all the difference in your life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, and then the final thing I'll say is just get clear about what you want minus the expectations of other people.
Oh, I like that. I love that. Mhm. Yes, I love that. And something that you said, um, having for me, like I said, with reading, It Begins With You every year, it kind of, for me with we have those triggers on dates of something that comes up a year, like
Mhm,
the death anniversary and those types of things, because that's what it surrounds that time. But for me, knowing that even though that's the weekend of my son's death anniversary, reading, I'm in expectation of getting ready to read It Begins
mhm,
With You. So I already know ahead, my mind is already um, stating Miami, I'm getting ready to go over to start over my reset. My reset is going to kick in just in a few days now. So I'm not so stressed or feeling those triggers as much, because I'm looking forward to, like you said, the reset or something that I've decided to do every year. So I don't have that anymore. I'm not getting ready to experience the common emotions of that loss all over, because I have, like you said, I have decided to choose to do something that is going to get me out of that mindset of thinking, of that negative self-talk, or, those limiting disbelief that we can set ourselves up for during those times. And I'm talking about those death dates, anniversaries, and all those things during loss, because a lot of us do the self isolation, like you said, during those times, because we know something is getting ready to come up. And I remember my therapist telling me as well, always have something planned around those dates. So having something planned is definitely, like, during that time for me, is It Begins With You. So I just want to reiterate to a lot of people that's going through the self isolation and things right now, as at what you said, putting things into perspective and making sure that we do something that we love. And so I definitely want to just continue letting people know that the resources that you have available for us, that they should do. And go get all the books. She's a 5-time author. There's a lot more to discuss about the books that she's written. So because you've mastered life altering events in your own life, how did Let's Begin Again manifest? I know you told me because of the young lady, you missed your friends, but was there more?
Absolutely. So most people at the beginning of every year, they set a resolution.
Mhm,
And for me, I choose a word. I choose a word that will guide my year. And in 2019, my word was rebirth.
mhm,
And when I tell you, it was definitely a year of rebirth. My
mhm.
way of thinking, my way of being. It was like my spirit man challenged my thought process. It challenged everything the way that I had known it to be. And so for me, I shift the way I was thinking. I shift the way I perceived things. And so what ended up manifesting for me was a new mindset in a new direction. And
Mhm.
so I spent the year getting rid of the old stuff and embracing the new stuff.
All right.
And one of the things that happened was I read this book called The Four Agreements.
Mhm,
Um, and in the Four Agreements, the first part, it talks about domestication. And with domestication, what happens is that when we come here, even though I think we come here knowing who we are
mm,
and knowing that we're the expert, but what happens in domestication is sort of like a taming period, right? And
mhm.
so our parents teach us how to be based on how they were taught how
Right.
to be.
Mhm.
And so I think it overshadows who we really are.
Are meant to be. Yeah.
Yes. And so
Mhm.
what the rebirth process did was help me unlearn some of those
Yeah.
things that no longer served me.
Right. Absolutely.
And so in that I took those lessons and I rebirthed Sister Circle. I did a rebirth with my coaching business, meaning that I took it in a different direction.
Okay. So speaking to a woman right now that's possibly in the rebirth thing process.
Mhm,
Hey, a lot of us are in that process right now just because
mhm.
of the way of the world and what's happening currently. What would you say to that person?
I would say know that it's still possible.
Mhm.
I would say for everything, there is a time and a season. And I would say that there are lessons even in the things that we feel have been lost.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just know that you don't have to have the answers to begin again. You can start exactly where you are and just take inventory of your environment. Pay attention to what's going on in your environment and look at how the current situation has shaped you.
Right. Oh, thank you so much for that. I think a lot of us needed to hear that. With so much uncertainty and not knowing what's happening currently with this pandemic that we're experiencing, um, you shedding any light to help support people that are home, that are entrepreneurs, that small businesses, giving us those tools are so much appreciated. To I know the millions of people that are home, are working from home, or whatever your situation is. It's difficult, but we too, like you said, in these challenging times, we can still go forward. Share the outcomes of your community impact among some multicultural groups that you've spent some time in, or
Mhm.
spoke to.
Right. So one of the things that was life changing for me was my husband and I both had a vision for a community center. And
Hmm.
so once we came together, we wasted no time creating this community center that would serve people that otherwise would not receive the support they needed. And one of the things that really took over was the after school program and the summer camp. And so I'm just really proud that I was able to help create a program, design and execute it and impact so many lives and have those lives impact mine as well and shaped me. And so one of the things was that the parents had a safe place for their children to attend during out of school hours. And we helped improve the school attendance and the academic scores of those 25 kids that consistently showed up. every day. And another thing that was really heartbreaking to me was learning about the food insecurities. And so
Mhm.
one of the things we did was every day we provided snacks for all the kids in the community. But if you were enrolled in an after school program, you received dinner every
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
And then the parents, this was really amazing. The parents, they would come in, and so I would take the skill set that they used as a parent and translate that to a resume. And so many of them were able to take back their power
Yeah.
by becoming empowered and going out and securing employment for the
Mm.
first time in years.
Oh,
I
praise
can't
God.
tell you how many grandmothers came and donated snacks and said, "This is my thank you for helping
Mhm.
my daughter get back on her feet."
Wow.
And so there are no words, to show just how much gratitude I have that we were positioned in a place to help so many families feel the restored hope, which was our goal. It was to restore hope and bring restoration to so many families that felt like, I don't know what to do. I feel lost. And so oftentimes, what happens is when we answer the call, it's us answering somebody's prayer.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tell me of talk about the communities that you serve. Where were those areas in Atlanta?
Mhm. We were in College Park initially from 2011 to 2015. And then we ended up having to close that location because it just became too unsafe. We had several break ins and it just became too unsafe for
Mm.
us to remain there. And I was devastated, but I knew that I'm a social worker of almost 30 years and I have never felt threatened to go into a community. And for the first time, I
Mhm.
felt threatened going
Mhm.
into a community. I no longer felt safe to be there. And
Yeah.
so we made the choice to close the doors, but it would not go away. The
Yeah.
call would not leave me.
Uh-huh.
And so we relaunched in Norcross,
Mhm.
and we remained there until last year. And we ended up having to close the door just because um, the resources were diminishing rapidly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, Miami, the call does not leave me alone.
Right.
And so this year, we started a mentor program.
Mhm.
And as a result of starting the mentor program, that brings me to Josiah's Prayer. So Josiah's Prayer is a children's book
Mhm.
that my husband and I co-authored as a way to bring in resources to
Mhm.
support the free after school program and summer camp. And so what we're doing now is that we're asking for support in the form of purchasing a children's book, and that will support the free mentor program that we have launched this year.
Uh, I was so proud seeing you in the Norcross community because that could sometimes, be a barrier just because of the language, but you went full force in supporting that community. The children in that community was so amazing. I remember volunteering with you one day doing some breathing exercises with the kids, but I would have been that's me. See, that's not my journey. But, I would have just been so afraid just trying to go in there and not, this language barrier. But the kids were really, you were able to communicate with them very well. I know it could have been some challenging sometime with some parents, but you dove right in, like not afraid of anything. You took on the challenge, the call that God had given you. And it was just like, then you start speaking some Spanish at some point with the kids. So you are learning as well, I guess. Um, just being able to support them. But it was a beautiful experience seeing you in that area as well. So how can you talked about how you supported so many people, but how can the community come together to support you and all the things that you're doing?
Like I said, by purchasing the book Josiah's Prayer, and all of my books are available on Amazon.com. But just knowing that if you purchase a book, you're helping a child. One of the things my husband and I always say is that, you know, as we embrace children, we embrace our own future.
Mhm.
And so, you know, you can purchase a book, but you also can become a monthly partner. You can become a monthly partner with our nonprofit, and that's Willie Dean Ministries. And you can go to our website, williedeanministries.org, to become a partner for only $30 a month. And in addition to becoming a partner, one of the things that you can do is that we have a confident communication kit that we have available, and the $30 will cover that kit. And
Mhm.
what we do is because one of the things we really want to do is help parents communicate with their children effectively.
Mhm.
And our primary goal is elementary age children. That's who we serve in the community. And one of the things we did realize was that some of the parents did not have the tools to effectively communicate with their children. We could see that they love their children.
Yeah.
But one of the things I realized and I learned firsthand is that when the stress of making sure that the people you love have provision
Mhm.
is in jeopardy,
Yeah.
sometimes you're triggered in ways that you don't realize you're projecting it onto your children.
Mhm.
And so, one of the things that we really want to do is help parents learn how to effectively communicate with their children and manage their emotions. And so, this is something brand new that we're kicking off this year, is that we're offering the confident communication packet for parent and children. And so we're really excited about that. And so becoming a monthly partner would definitely help us be able to get these packets
Mhm.
into the hands of these parents
Yes.
and really transform some more lives, because as we embrace children, we embrace our own future. And so, what better time now when you have time with your children, you know, is to work on those communication skills and work on, you know, understanding what you guys value together as a family and creating mission statements so that your children know what you believe individually and what you believe collectively. And as a family, you can work on honoring that.
Oh, right. That is so awesome, Joe. And I'm so proud of always proud of you and everything that you do for our community and working with the kids, just women, parents. You do so much. And I just want to make sure that my Grief Nation listeners know how to reach you. So, can you tell us again the name of your organization and all of your social media outlets?
Sure. So the name of the organization, we have a for-profit and we have a nonprofit. The
Mhm.
for-profit is Inspired by JoAnn, is the name of the for-profit, and the website is joanndean.com. Across all social media platforms, it's Inspired by JoAnn. And then our nonprofit is williedeanministries.org.
Okay, thank you so much. And before I let you go, what has your attention in the grief world in relation to starting over that you would like to change or bring some further awareness to?
Well, one of the things, and I said earlier, one of the ways that I honored my grandmother is that I wrote um, this grief handbook, Lifted for a Better View, The Journey of Transition, because I
Mhm.
promised her that I would write about her. But one of the things that I really want to do is to offer tools so that people know how to support someone that's grieving.
Mhm.
Because we take for granted that we know what to do and what to say. But so often I've heard friends say, "Oh my God, so and so passed. I don't know what to say."
Mhm.
And so I wanted to offer, so it not only is it tools to help you to understand what to say and what not to say, but there are stories of inspiration. And like I said, one of the things my grandmother did for me was she gave me the gift of instructions. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I want to offer a master class on teaching people how to prepare for transition, what's
Absolutely.
needed for the funeral,
Mhm.
and so just offering classes. I want to offer emotional support.
Mhm.
Um, and then, you know, helping people to remember the why, remember the why, and to remember the importance of instructions, because when someone transitions, if you're prepared as much as possible, and trust me, I know that, like for my sister, there's unexpected death,
Mhm.
but we know that death is coming for everyone. And it's an uncomfortable conversation
Right.
that, most people don't want to have that conversation, but I want to start encouraging communities to have that conversation and to
Absolutely.
have a plan of action.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. All that you do, all the great work, all the materials and techniques and tools that you provided for us today. I look forward to speaking to you in the near future. And of course, I will definitely be back to do some amazing work together again, I'm sure, here on Grief Talk. But thank you so much, JoAnn, for coming on the show today. Have a great day.